Assalamualaikum to Professor Maria Dr. Haji Muhammad Shahnawi uh, for my presentation in agenda setting theory. The definition of agenda setting theory. Okay, agenda setting theory describes the ability of the new media to influence the importance of the issues placed on the topics of the public agenda. Agenda theory suggests that the communications media, through their ability to identify and publicize issues, play a pivotal role in shaping the problems that attract attention from governments and international organizations, and direct public opinion towards specific issues. The theory suggests that the media can shape public opinion by determining what issues are given the most attention, and has been widely studied and applied to various forms of media. The way news stories and topics that impact public opinions are presented and influenced by the media. It is predicated on the idea that most individuals only have access to one source of information on most issues, the news media. Since they establish the agenda, they may affect how important some things are seen to be. The agenda setting by media is driven by the media's bias on things such as politics, economy, and culture. Examples: audience consider an issue to be more significant the more media attention it receives. For instance, even if readers don't have strong feelings about immigration, they will believe that it is a pressing problem at the time if there is consistent journalistic coverage of it over the period of a few months. The theory has two core assumptions. The first is that it is the media that controls the reality. The media does not report the reality but instead filters and shapes it. The second assumption is quite akin to the description of definitions of agenda setting theory, which states that it is the media that gives importance of saliency to its topics, as the more likely the media focuses on the certain issues, the more likely the public perceives such issues as important and therefore demands actions. Okay, the founding fathers of agenda setting theory. These two fathers of the agenda setting, Dr. Max McCombs and Dr. Donald Shaw's. History. The history of study of agenda settings can be traced to the first chapter of Walter Lippmann's 1922 book Public Opinion. In the chapter The World Outside and the Pictures in Our Heads, Lippmann argues that the mass media are the principal connection between events in the world and the image in the mind of the public. Without using the term agenda setting, Walter Lippmann was writing about what we today would call agenda setting. According to Lippmann, the public respond not to actual events in the environment, but to the pseudo-environment, which is term referring to the pictures in our heads. Agenda setting theory was formally developed by Maxwell Malcolm and Donald Lewis Shaw in a study on the 1968 presidential election deemed the Chapel Hill study. Malcolm and Shaw demonstrated a strong correlation between 100 Chapel Hill residents through on what was the most important election issue and what the local news media reported was the most important issues. By comparing the salience of issues in news contents with the public perception, Malcolm and Shaw determines the degree to which the media sways public opinion. The theory also suggests that media has a great influence to their audience by instilling what they should think about instead of what they actually think. That is, if a news item is covered frequently and prominently, the audience will regard the issue as more important. As early as the 1960s, Cohen has expressed the idea that later led to informalization of agenda-setting theory by McCombs and Shaw. The stories with the strongest agenda-setting influence tend to be those that involve conflict, terrorism, crime, and drug issues within the United States. Those that do not include or involve the United States and politics associate negatively with public opinion. Although Maxwell McCombs already had some interest in the field, he was exposed to Cohen's work while serving as a faculty member at UCLA. And it was Cohen's work that heavily influenced him and later Donald Shaw. The concept of agenda setting was launched by McCombs and Shaw during the 1968 presidential election in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. They examined Lippmann's idea of instruction of the pictures in our heads by comparing the issues on the media agenda with key issues on the undecided voters agenda. They found evidence of agenda setting by identifying that salience of the news agenda is highly correlated to that of the voters agenda. McCombs and Shaw were the first to provide the field of communication with empirical evidence that demonstrated the power of mass media and its influence on the public agenda. The empirical evidence also earned this theory its credibility amongst other social scientific theories. The development of agenda setting theory by comparing and developing the salience of issues in new contexts with the public's perception of the most important election issue, McCombs and Shaw were able to determine the degree to which the media determines public opinion. Since the 1968 Chapel Hill study published in a 1972 edition of Public Opinion Quarterly, more than 400 studies have been published on the agenda setting functions of the mass media, and the theory continues to be regarded as relevant. Agenda setting theory core assumption. There's four that the agenda setting theory core. Number one is the press and the media do not reflect reality, they filter and shape it. Second, media concentrate on a few issues and make them important than other issues in public perception. 3. The time frame for this phenomenon is very crucial. 4. Agenda setting theory countered the school of thought. Okay. The agenda setting functions have multiple components. Newspaper, social media, journalism, television, podcast and streaming, and radio, digital. Two basic assumptions underlie most research on agenda setting theory. The press and the media do not reflect reality, they filter and shape it. Media concentration on a few issues and subjects leads the public to perceive those issues as more important than other issues. Different media have different agenda setting potential. Priming and framing in agenda setting theory. Priming. Media influence on evaluation, reputation, and emphasis linked to agenda setting, priming, and policy distribution. Priming is a concept closely related to agenda setting theory and refers to the process by which media influences the public perception of certain issues by emphasizing particular aspects of those issues. Priming is a concept closely related to agenda setting theory and refers to the process by which media influences the public perception of certain issues by emphasizing particular aspects of those issues. Priming, often considered an extension of agenda theory, suggests that media coverage influences the criteria people use to evaluate leaders and issues, while agenda setting focuses on what issues gain prominence. Priming theory core idea: media coverage can influence the standard people use to evaluate leaders and issues. mechanism by highlighting certain issues. The media make those issues salient, and people are more likely to use them as benchmarks when making judgments. For example, if the news focus on the economy, people are more likely to evaluate a politician's performance based on economic factors. Relation to agenda setting. Priming boosts upon agenda setting by suggesting the salience of issues can influence how people evaluate political actors and policies. For example, if the media focus on crime, people might be more likely to evaluate a politician's performance based on their crime-fighting record. Priming is an important concept in media effects, as agenda setting brings out only the importance of the issue. Priming offers explanation on how the information from the media are stored in the human and mind and how it influences in making decisions. Media affect the judgment or behavior by stimulating the association to which are caused due to the mental relationships created inside the memory. The media effects have impact on particular aspects while ignoring others. The prominence shown in the media for any issues become a major factor in creating an impact in person judgment. This can cause to less concern on the more important issues. For example, the news that is flashing on the headline on television or the report coming on the front page of the newspaper are more likely to create an impact that the less prominent news coming subsequently. Framing. Framing is another important concept in the context of agenda setting theory, and it focuses on how the media not only highlights certain issues but also shapes the way those issues are preserved by the public. In other words, framing this with how issues are presented or constructed by the media, influencing the interpretation and understanding of these issues. The concept of framing is related to the agenda setting tradition, but expands the research by focusing the essence of the issues at hand rather than on a particular topic. The basics of framing theory is that the media focus attention on certain events and then place them within a field of meaning. Framing is an important topic. It can have a big influence, and therefore the concept of framing expanded to other areas as well. Types of agenda settings. There are three types of agenda setting. Media agenda. The media agenda refers to the most important consideration of discussed issues in the negotiated sources. The result of this agenda directly influences the public agenda, which also influences the policy agenda. However, the power of the media agenda depends on certain factors to include media credibility, conflicting evidence, the extent of shared values between the people and the media, and the public's needs for guidance. There are several negative statements that people have to say about the way this theory affects the media. One complaint is that media users are not ideal. This is because sometimes people do not focus on details. The second complaint is that the effect is weakened for people who have made up their mind. This is something that is also true. Lastly, the complaint is that media cannot create problems. The problems occur through media, but media is not the problem. Okay, second, public agenda. The public agenda is what the media agents agenda wants the public to think about through the interaction of mass media. This type of agenda influences the public through personal experience and interpersonal communication. The indicator of real-world events directly influence what the public thinks about the importance of an agenda issues or an event. This agenda interacts with what is considered important by policy makers to create the policy public. Policy agenda. The policy agenda is directly related to both the media and public agenda, and is the last step in the agenda setting process. The agenda itself relates to policy and makes reference to the public agenda while it interacts with the policy makers' belief. Okay, important agenda settings. Media influence on public thinking. People are exposed significantly shape their belief, opinions, and actions, substantially impacting their comprehension of altruism-related issues. Research has consistently shown that an individual's perception can be influenced by the extent of their exposure to particular subject. Challenge to agenda setting in modern media. 3 current and critical problems that agenda setting theory has been facing recently: problem of process, identify, and environment. The problems are critical because each has implications that might call into question the value of agenda setting theory. Issue of passive audience. A significant division among media studies theories is the belief that audiences are passive or active. A passive audience is the most extreme statement of this position. Passively accepts the message that media send it. An active audience, on the other hand, is fully aware of media messages and make informed decisions about how to process and interact with media. Time factor in agenda setting. Lastly, the causal hypothesis of agenda setting brings up the question of how long it takes for media agenda to become public agenda. A number of early studies were done to determine the length of time lag. Strength and weakness of agenda setting. There are strength and weakness of agenda setting theory. Strength, focus on audience interaction with media. Second, integrated related theories, primer and story vividness. Strength 3, empirical demonstrate the link between media exposure, audience motivation, and public perception. And the weak is number 1, too situationally specific to news and political campaigns. The second weak, direction of agenda setting effect is questioned. The conclusions that agenda setting theory explains how the media influences what people think is important by highlighting certain issues. It shows that the media has a strong role in shaping public opinions and priorities. However, with the rise of social media and personalized news, audiences are no longer passive consumers. People now have more control over the information that they engage with, leading to a more diverse and fragmented public agenda. Despite these changes, agenda setting remains relevant, especially in politics and major events. It reminds us to be critical of the media and aware of how news is presented to shape our views. Okay, that's all, Professor. Thank you for my presentation. Thank you, Doctor.